Welcome back, Queens, to another episode of the Creatress of Freedom podcast. I am Annie. I am your host. I am so happy to be dropping on in with you today because today is a very, very special episode, and I'll get into that in a second. But if you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm celebrating the fact that you have finally taken some time out of your day to tune on in and to have a little bit of some awareness around your self-sabotage habits. And if you are an OG, well, you are in for an incredible episode today. So strap on in because it's going to be an incredible episode. So let's get stuck into it. I am really, really excited about today's episode because today's episode, we have a special guest speaker that is coming on in. And this woman is she's a breath of fresh air, honestly. I met this beautiful woman in Denver, Colorado, one of our mentors that we were both investing in at the time. And honestly, like when you get yourself into spaces and you just like the best part about getting yourself into spaces where other like-minded women are the incredible soul sisters that come into your life. Like honestly, like that's I think that's the lesson that I've learned over the years of investing in spaces is I'm not actually investing in the spaces to learn whatever the strategy is or whatever the thing is. I actually am paying to find my soul sisters at the end of the day is what I think I've discovered because I have met some incredible people along the journey. And I was so, so lucky that we hit it off, and I actually asked Andie to come on in to our Evolve Mastermind. And I just knew that she has so much medicine and wisdom to be able to pour through the babes around self-sabotage and just the patterns that we have. And I invited her to come on and have this beautiful conversation with you as well today, because even though, yes, we went deep in on our Evolve Mastermind call, we all need to know this. We all need to have a beautiful discussion around what self-sabotage is, how it shows up, and all of those beautiful things. So I am so happy that you're here. Andy, welcome, 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 babe. I'm so excited to have this deep, deep conversation with you for us. I'm sure I'm going to get so many like little nuggets and takeaways, but I know that the audience that are listening, these beautiful women that are listening, are also going to have so many aha and breakthrough moments just from us having this conversation today. So welcome, babe. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I am so happy to be here. And I echo everything you said about just investing and finding your people and getting to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So, there's a lot of coaches out there in this online space right now. And what I love about you, Andie, is this specific area that you tap into. So I would love to like kind of hand the mic over to you, and I would love for you to share with the audience like what is it that you do? What is the specific area that you actually focus on, and why do you choose to focus on this area?
I love it. Yes. So, hi, my name is Andie, like you introduced me. No, but I am a self-sabotage coach, or at least that is how I have labeled myself. And what I have been doing over the last 4 to 5 years is really focusing in on helping people heal their self-sabotage, not just through kind of understanding it or being logical about it or anything like that, but really going a level deeper and asking ourselves, there's these things that we say we really want in our life, right? Like big goals, big dreams, but also little things that we say we want. And one of the most frustrating things that I think every human can relate to is when you say you really want something and technically you have the resources or the even ability to go do that, but you're not showing up for yourself. You're not getting yourself to go there. And so what I really narrow in on and help people with is understanding like, where is that gap? You say you want something, it's maybe only good for you, but yet you can't get yourself to show up. Like that just doesn't make logical sense. So how can we close that gap and get you to show up more naturally and effortlessly for the things that you are excited about so that you can start to become who you are meant to become? And I personally got into this because, like a lot of us, that was something that I really struggled with. And for me, in a really weird way, it showed up because I had an like adult onset eating disorder where it just really forced me, like when I was still working in corporate, I like just noticed that like I couldn't get through a day without running 10 miles in the morning because I needed that run in order to just like be okay and be able to handle my emotions at the office. And I would struggle with panic attacks randomly. And I multiple times had to leave the office just crying, hyperventilating, and I couldn't stop it. And there were these like, weird tics. Like I was just afraid to eat food. Like every time I ate food, it was just really, really hard for me. And so as like a 24-year-old at the time, 22 to 24-year-old, I remember being like, this is definitely not normal. Like this is definitely, starting to hold me back from dating, from meeting people, from making friends, like from just living a normal life. And thankfully enough, the first therapist I saw to work through this was not very helpful. And the second one was more helpful, but was like, I think you actually need something different. And I was led to a food freedom coach, an intuitive eating coach. And I made so much progress with her in the first little bit of time that we were together. And it fully has changed my life, changed how I saw myself, changed how I looked at things. And it really just led me down this path of self-discovery and understanding like what is going on inside of me. And that path of self-discovery was what really helped me start to realize that even in a weird way, that eating disorder that I really struggled with as an adult was a different form of self-sabotage. It was a way that I was actually like not feeling safe with myself and in my body and with what I was working towards. And it was a way I was trying to almost stunt myself from not getting what I said I wanted. And so now that's something that I have kind of extrapolated and seen just how many ways like we hold ourselves back as humans and how bad it really hurts us. Like not just kind of in not getting what we want, but in really just not seeing ourselves as who we are and not having that real relationship with ourselves that we all deserve to have.
I love that. Thank you for sharing your story there. Um, with the eating disorder, can I ask you a couple of questions around that? Because I feel like, oh man, I feel like we could have a whole conversation around eating disorder, honestly. Um, I think that this is something that a lot of women struggle with at some point within their life, whether it's, worried about food gaining weight, or whether it's, worried about like generational patterns. I know, like for me, like food and weight have been a huge part of my entire life. I feel like it has taken me a very, 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 very long time to finally like love and accept the body that I'm in, because literally every day I seen my mum on some kind of diet or some kind of like, I don't know, like new exercise regime or something like that. So I think that this is a conversation that a lot of women do suffer from. So when you talk about your eating disorder, was what was the deeper root of that for you? Was it based around like what you had seen from your family? Was it you not wanting to put on weight? Like was there a story that was associated with, like, what was the deeper reasoning behind this eating disorder that you were experiencing at that time in your life?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I definitely do relate to you, like seeing, like, just people in my life. I was lucky enough where my parents exhibited really good traits around food, like very healthy,
Okay.
very moderate. But I think being a girl in society and like,
Hmm.
I think Instagram and social media really started at the end of my high school like time frame. So like it
Hmm.
was starting to get introduced, and already as a girl, you already have problems with that, just seeing your friends and like,
Yeah.
maybe you're not as thin as your friends because they haven't developed as quickly as you or whatever else it is. So I'll say that there were things in there, but I would really say like the deeper root, like below even the kind of just societal stuff going on around me, was from the moment I was a little kid, I was just taught that like, you know, I need to achieve something to be okay. And so I was really good at
Mm-hmm.
that. Like when I went to school, I had a limit. Like I was never the best student, but I was a really good student. And like school was a really easy way to be like, you know what? I don't feel like there's something off inside me. Like I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like there's like a really strong root. Like maybe if I just get an A on that test, I'll feel better. Maybe if
Mm-hmm.
I get a 4.0 or even like a 3.5 this semester, I'll feel better.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I went to a very competitive high school. A lot of people around me had the same, like parents with the same jobs as like my parents had, like very just like the area I was in, that was just kind of how it was. And I didn't realize that that was odd at the time. And
Hmm.
so I found myself going to school, getting an engineering degree because I was good at math and science. Well, all of a sudden, I'm still feeling off, but I have so many more goals that I can use to maybe make myself feel better. And
Uh-huh.
after I had achieved kind of like to me what was the biggest goal of all, which was getting into this really top tier consulting firm out of college, I still felt off. And that was when everything
Mm.
started to down spiral. And I was like, maybe it's because I don't look the way that I want. Maybe it's because I'm too big. And eating is just a really dangerous path for that because, you know, at first I was maybe like a little bit heavy. I wasn't in good shape. I wasn't taking care
Hmm.
of my body. I was in college, you know, and I was like, I was going through it. But that first, 10, 20 pounds got me to a healthy level where I was actually like, eating well. And like I was probably at the healthiest I'd ever been in my life, but it wasn't
Hmm.
mentally healthy because once I got there,
Hmm.
all I could see was, oh, I still don't feel good. Maybe I needed 10 more pounds. Oh, I still
Hmm.
don't feel good. Maybe I needed a little bit more. Maybe I needed to run this marathon. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to do that. And so it just became this like really dangerous path. And I think my eating disorder really stemmed from that constant need to validate myself and validate my self-worth through something outside.
Mm. Mm. I love that you touched on I love these conversations. Seriously, I really do. I love that you touched on the self-worth. And I know that we talked a little bit about this the other day in our Evolve call as well, where you were like, ultimately, like the biggest reason that we all self-sabotage is because we all have this deep core wound, which is, Andy, what is our deep core wound that we all have?
Drum roll, please. It is self-worth. It is like every single one of us. And, at this point, I've worked with hundreds of clients. So I can very adamantly tell you that it's every single one of us, I think, struggle with self worth to some degree. And
Hmm.
it's this kind of endless battle where we're constantly taught to base our sense of self worth on things outside of us. But
Yeah.
the idea that we could be worthy or valuable just as we are is just so hard for us to comprehend. And funny enough, that's
Yeah.
a healing pattern. Like that is what needs to happen for you
Hmm.
really to heal a lot of the self-sabotaging patterns.
Yeah. 100%. It's interesting that you bring this up because I had a recent therapy session. I actually did a podcast episode on this. So if you want to go back and listen to the one of those other episodes, I would highly recommend that you listen to it because I talked about this breakthrough I had with my therapist, and she was saying that one of the biggest core wounds that we all have is this illusion of the human self is separate from the soul, and that's why we are often feeling lost, and why we feel like we don't belong, and why we feel like we don't have this worth of just inherently the fact that we're born, right? Like we are worthy. And so she was saying, like, the moment that we incarnate from the soul here into this human life experience, we have this illusion that we're now separate. And it's like, it's not the case at all. We actually are, the soul came with us, but we as humans had this illusion that we are separated from the soul, which is why we have this deeper core value that we believe that we're not worthy, because we don't believe that the soul came with us. And so doing this deeper inner work on ourselves is, yes, like rewriting those patterns, which obviously we're going to get into some of that conversation as well today. But really, ultimately, it is like learning how to reconnect back to the soul and trusting that we are still together and that we haven't have this illusion of separation anymore. Yeah.
I love the way that was put. And it actually reminds me of something. My husband is a meditation teacher, and he was studying under another meditation teacher at one point. And this man told him something that I just think was like brilliant. I repeat it all the time, but it reminds me of what you just said. And he said that like one of the deepest human problems of all is that deep down, like every single one of us thinks there is something inherently wrong with us, like at a
Yeah.
core level, like on the most
Hmm.
core level of all.
Hmm.
And we think that no one else has this too, but every single one of us has it. And I love
Yeah.
that you said that with the soul, because I think that like I think those two go hand in hand. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
we all feel that separation, and really it's about coming back to that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, it's like coming back to home. Like we were never separated. We just have been led to believe that we have now come from the soul. Like the soul has been left there, and it's like no, like the soul came here to this human life experience. You are in the soul, but we have this illusion that we are separate, which is why we all feel like we're lost, we're confused, we don't know where we belong, we haven't found our people. And it's like, no, like you are always there. You are always there with your soul, but it's yeah, learning to rewrite that and reconnecting back with the soul on a much deeper level.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So we let's bring this back into the self-sabotage, right? Because I feel like that kind of flows perfectly into this conversation that we were talking about. I would love to hear a little bit how you picked up this pattern. Like at which stage did you start to realize, oh fuck, like this like eating disorder, this like running 10 miles before work because I feel like it's the only thing that I can do to function? Like where was this moment where you realized, oh fuck, this is like a self-sabotage that is kicking in here? Can you remember that moment?
I don't know why, but I have this very specific moment. I was living out in Washington, D.C. in the United States, and I was working, I was like, it was government consulting. So I was like running around like, if you guys know what the White House looks like, or like the US Constitution, or like the Washington Monument, like I was literally running around all those things every morning. And there was this morning, my parents had come in to visit, and every time they left, I lost it. I'm very close with my family. And I was just really struggling to be alone out there. And it was a year and a half in, and I just remember they like left, and they left at, they had a 5 a.m. flight or something, and I drove them to the airport, came home, and because I couldn't get through that workday without it, I went and I ran around all the monuments, and I was like fighting, like I was like crying as I was running. And I just had this like realization of like, I cannot live my life like this. Like there is something
Mhm,
going on here. And I think that's when everything really started to click for me, where it was like,
mhm,
you know, I can't be any like I had this awareness that like I didn't need to look thinner. Like I had this
mhm,
level of awareness
mhm,
inside of me that like I was missing out on parts of life because like I couldn't handle my emotions. I had an awareness that like I wasn't showing up fully even to my job because I was so like crazy inside. And
mhm,
there was stuff going on with like a relationship in my life at that time where I did have the awareness where it was like I think I might not even be able to date someone or find someone in my life if I don't figure this out. And
mhm,
that was kind of where I saw it because I was like, I've done everything I said I needed to do. I've shown up for it. Like,
mhm,
you're right, like in like some way, shape, or form, I wasn't self-sabotaging to the outside eye because I had so much
mhm,
discipline to show up. But I was kind of seeing it in a totally different light of like, wow, I'm self-destructing and like I can just keep doing this. And it just became crystal clear.
mhm.
Yeah.
I love the part where you're like, to the outside eye, I look disciplined. Oh, like
Mhm.
how true that is. I feel like as high achievers, we're gonna go with that. Like we are all high achievers here. Like if you're listening to this episode, you too are one of them. Um, and it's like this remembering to like come back home to self, right? Because yes, to the outside eye, like you might look like you've got all your ducks in a row and you've got like everything sorted and you are kicking goals, right? Like you had a really important job. So like you were doing well as far as, society and as far as everybody else was seeing on the outside, but you knew internally that something was not right. And I think this is like such a key point to this conversation because ultimately we can invest in all of the containers and all of the mentorships and we can read all of the self-help books and we can do all of the stuff, right? But ultimately it does come back to really learning to trust yourself and really like asking yourself like this feels off. Like why does this feel off? And knowing that somebody else might look at you and go like no, like that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing that you go for a 10-mile run. Like wow, I wish I could be disciplined to do that. And you're like yeah, but like no, like I can see that this is coming from a toxic place, right? And I think that that's really important that you brought that up because we do have to keep coming back to self and keep checking in with self because ultimately nobody has the answers, or nobody has the level of awareness that we necessarily have for ourselves. So I loved that you actually mentioned that. I think that's really, really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy when I look back because I have so much more perspective now. Like it's been quite
Hmm.
a while since I was there. And there's memories that I have of like I had a very toxic boss at that job at one of the clients I was on. And I remember her being semi-manipulative, but asking
Hmm.
me, like sitting me down and asking me, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you work out every morning? Like, how do you show up? Like, how do you eat so regimented? And I remember like at the time being like, how do you not? Like, I just had no
Yeah,
concept.
yeah, yeah.
This is how I survive. Like, this is like, you understand. But
Yeah. You're like, you don't live like that.
yeah, like in work settings, people would genuinely ask me some of that. And it is crazy looking back. Like, I
Mm,
honestly thank God for it because at the time, I was so young. I don't know how this happened, but like, I have seen people around me at even later stages of their life going through pretty bad, much worse than where I was,
mhm,
eating disorders. And it's been really eye opening because I've realized like the fact that I had that awareness to be like, oh, like this is what's making me feel better and making me
mhm,
survive, but this is wrong. Like I need to stop this. It's not
mhm.
normal. Like not everyone has that when you're in that deep of a state. Like an eating disorder
Yeah.
can be as severe as like alcoholism or
Mhm.
any real type of addiction. And so I do like thank you for saying that because I do look back at that sometimes and I'm like I don't expect now now watching other people go through some of that kind of stuff to that
Mhm.
severity. I don't expect them to have that because but
Mm.
something in the ethers was like talking to me. Like I really do
Yeah.
because at the time, how would I have done that?
Exactly. Yeah. So for someone that's like listening to this episode, because I mean, like self-sabotage is a big topic, right? Like it's a really big topic. So someone that's listening to this might be listening and might be thinking, oh, like I don't know if I have like an eating disorder, or, I don't know if I have like extreme habits like that. So I don't think that I have self-sabotage habits. And if you are thinking that, well, FYI, that is not true. Just going to put that out there because every human being has self sabotage habits, as far as I'm concerned. So if there is someone that's listening and they're like, like what? I don't know if that's me. What are some other scenarios or examples that you can give for someone that's listening that maybe is like, I don't know if I would have self sabotage? Like, how else would that show up in somebody's life to
Mm.
help them see that maybe they do have some self sabotage patterns?
Oh, so many ways. And this is where being really attuned to yourself is good because we are all humans and our system was designed to be smart. Like we are meant to trick ourselves, which is the crazy
Hmm.
part about it. But
Hmm.
like I always define self-sabotage as anything that goes against your best interest. So if your best interest, if you like deep down really want to grow your business to a certain point, and logically, like let's just say you have to show up on social media to do so. So this was me in like the very beginning of my business.
Hmm.
And or let's say you have to take a sales call, but
Hmm.
every time you get a sales call, which should be a good thing, you should be thrilled when you first get sales calls. That's like the most exciting part of all. You
Uh-huh.
feel excited, but when you get to go, like when you're about to go on them, you start to get tired and kind of lethargic, and you're like,
Uh-huh.
like, I don't really want to do this. And like you feel that kind of brain fog, that fatigue in your
Uh-huh.
body. That is a form of self sabotage. If you are ever going to write a piece of content and you had like this brilliant idea and you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited to write this content or do whatever, or some other creative endeavor in your business or in your life. And then you go to actually sit down and do it and you just feel so creatively dead. That is self sabotage. If you procrastinate on something, whether it's because you're cleaning your entire house or you decide, oh, I actually am hungry for the 10th time in the last hour, that is also self sabotage. Even if your dog needs to walk, like all of our dogs need to walk, but God, you guys would be surprised at how many walks my dog has gotten because I've convinced myself die without her third walk of the day. And she's just so active. She needs 3 walks because I am procrastinating, right? And so it's like self sabotage just shows up in so many different ways. People pleasing, perfectionism, needing to prove yourself to people, over planning, under planning, like all of those things. That's why it's important to know you because you can use something that's good to trick you into thinking you're doing something right when really deep down, you should be spending your time doing something else.
Mm. Yeah, I love that you were talking about that. I'm just going to bring an example in here because this is a perfect example of self-sabotage. And I think this is why it is important that we all are on some kind of self-discovery journey, right? Because like you said, like what might be classed as perfectionism for somebody might not necessarily be a bad thing for somebody else. So it is really important that we do like go on that inner journey and like figure out our patterns and our behaviors and like know what that is. So when I was in Texas, my girlfriend and I, we were like every day we had something planned and it was so fun. It was like exciting, you know, like not once were we ever tired, right? And then we were going to go to a BPE class, which is the that stands for Big Pussy Energy. And so it's a dance class. And so it's like this like empowerment dance class. So, you know, like you're working with a chair, you know, some of the women are in lingerie. Like it's just like it's a really beautiful, like activating that energy of like this big pussy energy of like really owning yourself. And so my girlfriend Brie had been to many of her classes and was like, I love them, they're amazing. And I was like, yeah, they sound so good. Like it's totally up my alley. Like I'm here for that. Like, yes, let's do it. So we booked the class, and you know, it was so funny because as it got closer, all of a sudden we started to feel really tired. Like we were
Mm.
just like, oh, maybe we should cancel the class. Like maybe we shouldn't go. Like, I don't know, just feeling super tired, you know, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, yeah, no, like we should go though. Like, yeah, we should. Anyway, so we finally like went to this class and we were like so pumped up after it. We were like energized and we were like, this is amazing. And we both said in the car, we're like, isn't it funny how we've done all of these activities and not once did we ever feel tired? But yet, the minute that we were about to do like an activity that was somewhat going to challenge us a little bit in like the deeper inner work, because the class is not just a dance class, like it's almost like a reconnecting with yourself, and it's like connecting back with that womb and your power, and you know, like it's an inner journey that you're also going on. And we were saying like how funny that we were not tired throughout any of it, and we were like all of a sudden we were tired because it was going to be probably something that was going to be a little bit challenging, but we also knew that it was going to be for our highest good as well. And
Mhm.
we're like, isn't that funny how like that was technically a little form of self-sabotage where we were like, oh, look at that, all of a sudden I'm really tired and we should just like order in takeout and just stay on the couch tonight and not go and do this exercise, when deep down like we knew that it was what we actually needed. So yeah, that was like something that was coming through as you were sharing this like self-sabotage. It's like it's so fucking sneaky. Like
So
it
sneaky.
makes you really believe it, you know, because like we were justifying why we were tired. It's like, yeah, well, we've been so flat out for like the last few days, so like I guess yeah, it's catching up with us. Like, and it's so believable. Your self-sabotage is so believable that you think, oh yeah, well, it makes sense, it makes perfect sense as to why this is happening.
Yes, 100%. I'm so glad that you shared that too, because that is where, like, and this is just, I'm going to just like share this little tidbit because this was something that really helped me.
Hmm.
There's a lot of talk about like the feminine and the masculine, right? Like feminine energy
Hmm.
or the flow. What are you feeling in the moment? All of this. Masculine being discipline, discipline, like discipline, discipline,
Yeah.
discipline. Show up, show up, show up.
Hmm.
Structure. And when I first started leaning into like feminine energy and being like, oh, like I need to like lean into like my feminine more,
Hmm.
I think I mistook that. And I've seen this with several
Mm.
clients where it's like, oh, but like I'm kind of tired. I probably shouldn't go to the dance class. Like, and you almost have to be aware because it's like sometimes, yes, like you are tired and like you genuinely should stay in bed right now or you should take a
Hmm.
rest. Like, we're not saying never
Mm.
take a rest, but
Yeah.
there is this like sneakiness of our body where if it has a way to justify not doing something that'll make it slightly uncomfortable, you better bet it's going to take it because that's literally its job. Like that is like that's a form of survival and safety for our body, even if a dance class isn't threatening your survival. To your body, it is. And so
Hmm.
just being like bringing that awareness, because I've seen people get down like really interesting paths where they're like, well, I'm trying to lean into my feminine, and then it's like, but that's a little different. There's like a little
Yeah.
nuance there, and that becomes an excuse. So it's this beautiful
Yeah.
knowing yourself.
Yes. Oh, I loved that you brought in that masculine and feminine because I 100% agree. It can, that can, there's a bit of a movement, I think, around that of um, like not trusting yourself first of all, and almost like your body really is asking for the rest, but then you're wearing it as a fucking badge of honor because you are so disciplined and you just got it done, and like you're in your masculine, and sometimes that's what you have to do. And it's like, well, like it's like the pendulum swings sometimes like
Yeah,
too far, and then it's like this like other extreme of like I'm really trying to like listen to my feminine energy, and like I am really tired, and like sometimes it can be seen as an excuse as well of like not getting out of the comfort zone and doing the things that are uncomfortable. So I loved that you touched on that, because again, like that flows into the self-sabotage of like the more that we learn about ourselves and we learn about our patterns, the more we're able to decipher, oh, hold on, like what actually is going on here? Is this me creating this like self-sabotage of the feminine saying, oh, I'm just tired and I'm using it as an excuse? Or, am I actually because self-sabotage can work the other way, where we are constantly too disciplined, and
exactly.
it's like goes the complete opposite end. So yeah, I think that's really, really important that we learn to distinguish between the two, and we can only do that when we've like come back to ourselves, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. It always comes back to like, it's not the thing that's the problem. Like, even
Hmm.
let's take running for me. Running wasn't the problem. The problem was my relationship with running, and more deeply, my relationship with myself. Running was just a
Mm,
tool, right? Like, running is
mm,
great. Like, now I run and it genuinely brings me joy, and it's a
hmm,
healthy, like, happy activity for me. But at the time, like, I could have easily blamed running, but it's like running isn't the problem, it's me. And that's always how it is. Like the deeper we know ourselves, the deeper we understand like what are our crutches, what are our ways that we self-sabotage, what are the tricks we play on ourselves, the
hmm.
better off we're going to be and the more then we have leverage against everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. And so for someone that's listening and that is like now starting to correlate, okay, yeah, I maybe have got a few self-sabotage habits that are present and happening, what would be your advice to those people? Because obviously there is the awareness, like, we talked a little bit about this the other day on our Evolve call. It's like logically we can understand it. Logically we get, okay, yeah, like we've got the awareness around it. We know that this is self-sabotage, but then what? So like what would be your advice to someone that is maybe aware of their self-sabotage? They're so aware of it that it fucking happens every single week, and no matter how many times on Monday they go to start that new diet, or they go to start that new routine that they're going to stick to every single week, and they fall off the wagon the next day. Like how can they help themselves? What would be your advice for someone that is aware of their self-sabotage patterns?
Well, on a very surface level, it would be to work on your self-worth, whatever that means to you. But if we're going to take
Mm-hmm.
that like a level deeper and actually say, okay, why am I self-sabotaging? A huge reason, and I'm going to be talking about this kind of quickly. So understand that it might not make full sense, but hopefully I'm connecting enough dots for everybody. On a deeper level, your self-sabotage is a result of things that your body thinks it needs to be scared of. It's things that your body thinks are going to hurt your safety. Now, in a logical place, you would think, oh, but this isn't gonna hurt my safety. Why would going to the gym when I actually do like need to move my body more? Why would that be a bad thing? But to your
Mm-hmm.
body, the gym has other meanings and other symbols, and there's other attachments that have been created throughout your life. And what
Mm-hmm.
happens is that earlier on in our life, when we kind of start to develop the root of a lot of these self sabotaging patterns and the root of a lot of our issues with our own self worth, there's a bunch of kind of like moments where we have these heightened negative emotions and we don't fully process them. And those heightened negative emotions that aren't fully processed almost get stored in our body like a clog in a pipe. And so, at the very deep level, when it comes to healing self sabotage, we need to heal our self worth. Well, in order to heal our self worth, we need to heal the clogs in the clogs in the pipe. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if you're like kind of thinking, okay, well, like I got it, like I have to fix my self worth. How the heck do I do that? Like I've tried affirmations, they don't work. Like I've tried this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to journal 1,000 days in my life. Like I don't want to keep saying that I like value myself when I don't actually value myself. Well, the reason you have to repeat those things so many times is because that is like the mind, right? Like the mind thinks like through affirmations, through journaling, through repetition. But the pattern that you are actually dealing with when it comes to self-sabotage isn't a mind level pattern. It's a physical pattern, meaning it's stored in your body. The body is influencing the mind. So if we are trying to change our mind and it's taking 1,000 times, well, yeah, no, duh, because you're using your mind to try to change something that's influencing your mind. Like, it's not going to make sense. It's not going to work. It's not going to be as efficient. So if we want to get efficient about healing self-sabotage, what we have to like ask ourselves is, okay, how do I then start to go into my body and heal some of the wounds that have caused me to feel unsafe with what I'm working towards, and also have caused me to feel like I'm not enough in the first place?
I love that. I feel like as you were talking, there's a similar concept that I use a lot in my spaces with my clients, and it's like I get them to like imagine like this timeline, right? Like of your entire life, and it's like, so I want you to see this entire life from the minute that you were born to where you are right now, and I want you to zoom out and look at this timeline from a higher perspective. And so I want you to think about, if we let's use the diet thing as a situation. I'll use my story, right? And so it's like, okay, let's go back over this timeline, and from this bird's eye view, let's pinpoint where you remember different moments that happened, right? And it's like, okay, well, I remember from like age, 4, my dad calling me a bulldozer because I was like a chunky little kid. And so it was like, okay, so there's that moment. And then it's like, okay, well, from age 6, I remember my mum telling me like I just sniffed food and I would be full. There's like I never wanted to eat food. And then as I was a little bit older, it was my mum was always on a diet and never even seen her like love her body. And then as I was a bit older, you go to Nan's house and you'd be like, Nan, what can I eat? I'm hungry. Have an Atkins bar. And it's like you have all of these timeline snapshots over
Yeah.
this timeline. But the thing that has happened here, and this is bringing this back to you talking about the body, right, is your psyche, part of your psyche, has actually stopped in some of those scenarios where that trauma has essentially been imprinted on the psyche. And so here, where you are right now, you've got parts of your psyche that are stuck in the timeline way back here. And that's why right now, the logical mind is not able to heal through it, because it's like it's your body, your psyche is actually back here. And so we have to use different modalities, which you did an incredible job of walking the babes through. And so we actually have that cut out and just put inside Evolve for those that want to get access to that, where we do this beautiful breath work, and you can actually go back to those timelines and bring that psyche back to this present moment right now, because we don't have to continue to live in those traumatic stages in our life and continue to have those self-sabotage patterns. We can actually go back and we can rewrite it, and we can bring her with us to this present moment right now. And that's how we shift it out of the body. So I love that you like talked about that, because I think it's so powerful to remember that the decisions that we're making from this point right now, whether it's a good decision or a self-sabotage that's happening, is because of past experiences. So
Mhm.
I loved that you really like emphasized that it's because it's stored in the body, and it's stored in the body because of those past experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love what you said, because I think it's such a perfect like example of it. Like, those parts of your psyche that are like stored in those other moments in time, they're stored there because in that moment you had an emotional response. Like when your mom said to like sniff this and you'll be full, part of you like felt off. Like there was something about that that didn't resonate in your body. You had an emotional response, but you didn't feel safe enough, or your body
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel safe enough, because you might not have even consciously thought of this.
Yeah.
Your body didn't feel safe enough to fully experience that emotion. Like every emotion
Yeah.
needs to open and then it needs to close, because that's homeostasis. That's how our body
Mm-hmm.
works. And what's really cool is they've done like studies, I think, and I forget the actual name of what it is, but they have done studies of how when someone is like reawakening a very significant emotional moment in their past, and they're kind of like getting rid of the remainder of the emotions inside of them. So like if we were to go to that past moment with you
Mm-hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
you were to finish that emotional response, like feel safe enough
Mm-hmm.
in this moment to finish it and bring your psyche back, when you like pee, there is actually like a different chemical that comes out, because they have proven that your body actually does hold on to emotions in certain ways. I wish I had the actual technical term for this, but I haven't read this study very recently. It's been a while. But they have started to prove that, like, even on a scientific level, like, your body is holding on to things and then it is releasing them. And that allows you to kind of go back to that state of like being a little bit more complete, right? Being a little bit more, having
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more of you brought back from that past moment and being here right now. And so just understanding that like there's so much of this that like really happens, and it happens without you thinking about it. Like you couldn't really like prevent that in your that moment. But now that you're here, you do have the luxury of being able to go back and fix some of it so you're not sabotaging yourself in certain areas as much.
Yeah, yes, 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 yes. Oh, I love this. And I think we have to remember, because I know this happens a lot in my spaces, and it's probably happened a lot in your spaces as well, is this like illusion of, well, I've healed through that, we're done. It's like,
Oh my gosh, yes.
no, no, like it doesn't quite work like that. So I'd love to hear like what's your take on that from someone that is like, fuck me, like I'm back here again. Like how many times do I have to keep dealing with this self-sabotage pattern that keeps coming up? What's your advice on that one?
So, my thoughts on this is that it all happens at levels. Like, if we have core patterns and core, real deep wounds inside of us, we all have ones that are unique to us. So, like, for me, maybe I really struggle with, I don't know, being seen. Let's say that. Like, that's something that's just really hard for me. It's always been like something in me. Or I even struggle with the pattern I shared earlier of like using achievement as a way to validate my worth. Well,
Mhm,
I could heal through that in a certain level, but then there will be a level in the future, like I'll heal that and then I'll stop sabotaging myself and I will grow until my body feels uncomfortable again. And then oftentimes when your body feels uncomfortable again and you're going through another stretch of growth, what I've seen with myself and most of my clients is that that same pattern will actually come back just at a deeper level. And it might come back with the
mhm,
same memories or the same instances, or it might come back in a totally different color or flavor, you know?
mhm.
But our challenge through life, at least as I see it, is that you're going to want to get really comfortable with whatever is causing you to self sabotage right now, because all that's going to happen every time you reach a new stage of growth is it's going to come back in a different like packaging, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Amen
I
to
wish
that.
I could
And
deliver
I
better
know,
news.
I know, I know. I'm the same. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, it is what it is. I know my biggest wound is abandonment. Like I grew up in a very, very strict religious household, and I chose to no longer follow the religious path, and so therefore I was kicked out of home, kicked out of church, and I have not had a relationship with my family for 17 years now. And so that is my biggest wound that like is constantly up for review every time I hit through that next level of, whether it's wealth, whether it's relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's relationship with myself. It's like it's this constant journey of re-looking through it at a new lens. So yeah, I loved that.
Yeah.
So, as we are chatting about this beautiful topic around self sabotage, and someone that is aware of the pattern, maybe they're doing some of the inner work, right? Maybe they are like focusing on getting into the body, and maybe they're still feeling a little bit stuck on like this pattern that does keep showing up. What would be your advice for someone that is maybe on this journey for a little while now and still feels like they just can't seem to fucking shake this or break through it, to even at least get through the next level? What would be your advice on that?
Something that I have found super interesting, this goes around the theme that we've been talking about today, is that we can get very hooked on things as humans that we think are what's wrong with us, when in reality, it has nothing to do with that. And so I'll share a very short story. There was a point in my, I'd say like business and relationship, where my husband was deployed and he was deployed very, like my story with my husband is very interesting. Like we didn't know each other very long before we were like, oh wait, we really like each other. And then we got married very quickly. And then he was shipped off to the Middle East. And so he was gone for about a year. And it was like, that was the same year I started my business. And so when he was gone and came back, all of these like great things were happening. My business had taken off. Like he was doing, like he was back together again. But there were just like really weird patterns that were coming up in business specifically. Like I went from making a lot of money to making like still like a good amount of money, but like there was a distinct difference in how it felt. And our relationship wasn't like bad, but because he had been gone for a year, I couldn't tell you that like it was different than it was before. All I knew is he'd been gone for a year. It was very stressful, very traumatic, and he experienced some things that like we never would have expected would have happened. And I started working with someone because I was like so set on business. I was just like, I just have to show up. I have to do this. And then I was like, okay, maybe I have problems like I had earlier. Maybe it's my self-worth. So then I started refocusing on my self-worth and I started like going down this rabbit hole. Well, lo and behold, nothing changed. And I was like, I found this woman and she ended up becoming like a savior in my life. But we started working together and she started helping me with my self-sabotage because even as someone with self-sabotage, I wasn't being able to fix myself because I thought I had these problems and it wasn't being fixed. And what was hilarious and not hilarious at the same time was that the thing that actually got me through and that was causing me to self-sabotage so much in my business at that time, it had nothing to do with business. It had everything to do with the trauma my husband experienced. Not even me, but the trauma my husband experienced while he was deployed. And I never could have told you that that happened because I was sitting here being like, well, I didn't experience that. I was like in my parents' house on the other side of the world, like making like a lot of money, like doing great things, having great opportunities. How would this be the thing that is causing me problems? And someone with an outsider eye was able to help me see that that was so connected that I just like never could have put the two together. And so I think sometimes when we are in that state, like I share all this for this, when we're in that state where we think we know best, oftentimes we might be tricking ourselves in a way we don't even realize. And that, like, I'm all for like helping yourself through things. I think the most empowering thing of all is like knowing that you have the tools to get through anything that's going on in your life and knowing that you have the power and you can do it. Because I think when we're dependent on other people, it's very disempowering and it can cause a lot of harm. But there are still times in our life where we need other people and an outside point of view and an outside perspective because our little brains just love to think they're right and they love to be sneaky and they love to keep us stuck. And sometimes keeping us stuck is keeping us thinking that we're doing the work and thinking we're doing it in the right way. When in reality, there's just a little shift that needs to be made, but we're never going to be able to see it because we're going to be too caught on it. That is the self-sabotage, unless someone kind of shines a light on the other area.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, I love that because I think sometimes I always say to myself, I'm like, sometimes you can be too fucking self-aware.
Yes.
Because you have the ability to zoom out and you can see it from all these different angles and you're like, okay, well, is it this or is it this showing up or is it this or maybe it's this pattern or maybe it's this, and it's like sometimes the noise can just be so much, and then you just have that conversation with someone that is an outsider that can see it, so like to someone else it's so fucking clear, it's so
Mhm.
clear that someone's like, oh, I see exactly what's going on here, and it's like, oh really, and then they tell you and you're like, oh yeah, like maybe, yeah, maybe I can see that now. So I
Yeah.
100% agree with you that there does come a time sometimes where when you're on this journey, like being investing into spaces where you can be supported by that type of woman or that mentor or whoever it is, or a coach or a psychologist or whatever, definitely pays off and helps you on your journey for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I hesitate to say you always need that outside of you, but I do think there's just times in our life where like with the nature of self-sabotage, like self-sabotage is your body protecting itself or thinking it's protecting itself. And so it is going to act strategically because it doesn't want your brain to override what's happening. Like that
Mm,
is like the nature of the beast. And so you have
yeah.
to then be aware enough to know that your awareness might actually be the problem itself. Like
Yeah.
you were saying, you're too aware for your own good, like that
Mm,
could be the problem. So then like you just have to know how to put the right people and right tools in at the right times, and that it's not always something that's outside of you, but like sometimes when you're doing all the right things and nothing is working, that's the time to question it. Like that is the time to be
mm.
like, I wonder what's happening.
Yeah, I think too, something else I want to touch on is that it is really important who we have these conversations with to help pull us up and out. Because something that I often see in my containers and in my spaces where women come into my world is they tend to gravitate to the person that's going to like continue to allow them to be in a little bit of a victim mindset, or like they tend to gravitate to those people that are going to like buy into their story instead. And this happens on a subconscious level, right? Like it's not happening from a conscious level of like, oh, this person knows me best, and like I'm going to go and talk to them and they can give me their advice. This happens on a much deeper level. And so I think it is really important that we also be mindful in who we have these conversations with, because you do want that person to really show you a different perspective, or kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate with you and be like, well, hold on, like what if this is what could be happening here, and instead of like choosing that person that's going to buy into that story and confirm that story for you. It's like you kind of want to be mindful of who you do have those conversations with, so that you can continue to grow and evolve, instead of have those people that are buying into the story of what it is that you're telling yourself.
100%. And I think also being mindful of like the label that's on that person. Like, I think sometimes we like categorize people as like therapist, coach, psychologist, psychiatrist, like whatever the other labels there are. And what was so interesting for me is like, no knock against coaching, no knock against therapy, no
Mm-hmm.
knock against any of the actual fields, but it's less about like whatever their label is. And it's more about like, who is the person that's going to be like honest and transparent with you? You know what I mean? Like, who is the person that can like stop yourself, like stop the pattern in its tracks? And like, that's usually what you want to look for when it comes to something like that, because you do need someone that's kind of blunt. Like, you do need someone who's going to be like not wanting to see you for your whole life. Like, you want the person that like I'll speak for myself. That woman did more in 2 sessions than I have gotten from people in like, I mean, I saw a therapist at first for like 6 months, and I think I digressed. Like, I got worse.
Uh-huh.
And it
Uh-huh.
wasn't because therapy's bad. It's just because that woman was not doing what I needed her to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
just knowing and like looking out for those little cues of like, who will be blunt with me? Who will not like, who can I already tell like won't take my shit? Like, who is gonna like kind of set me straight or call me when something doesn't seem right? Because that is a very special type of person. And like, we all kind of deserve that if you're looking for someone in that, like, especially for this type of thing where it can just be so sneaky.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I 100% agree. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily like someone that you necessarily need to pay, or obviously that person is going to have a biased opinion if you're paying them. I mean, if you are is not going to have a biased opinion if you are paying them. They're going to just shoot their shot the way, because they're there to help you. So yeah, I think it is important to know that it's not necessarily like the therapist, or the person that you label. It is literally just someone that is like not gonna is going to call you out essentially, and say, hey, like I see more and bigger in you than you're seeing in yourself right now, so let's bring that out in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a
Yeah.
great friend that can do that, like, lucky you, use that person.
Yes, yes, I do. I have a couple of those really, really like soul sisters where they're like, all right, I hear you, but like I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Like, could this be going on? And it's like, I appreciate that perspective. Let me tune into my body and let me see, is that what could be going on here? And you kind of hold that space for each other, and you're like, oh, actually, yeah, that does feel like that is a little bit of truth there in my body. So yeah, you could be right.
And
Yeah,
especially
I think
when
it's
you notice like a little defensiveness coming up when they say something, you're like, dang it, there's probably
yeah.
something in that. Like, I don't want to admit it, but gosh.
Yeah, and then you need that friend to be like, well, why are you getting defensive right now? And it's like, oh,
It's
shit.
hard sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree. Is there any last final moments that or words of wisdom that you want to share with someone that is maybe on this path of self-sabotage, of healing these wounds, healing these patterns? Is there anything that you want that's on your chest or on your heart that you want to pour to the woman that might be listening to this episode today?
Yeah, I think I would tell her right now that like your discipline is incredible. Like, we're not knocking discipline. Like, you need discipline to get things done, and like please keep using it. But for every level of growth and every level of success in any area of your life, be it business or relationships, your health or your friendships, whatever it is, you will have self-sabotaging patterns come up once you get to a point of it being uncomfortable. And there will be a point where discipline doesn't get you over the hump anymore. And so just like start to notice that kind of pattern in yourself and notice where you really truly feel stuck at a ceiling, because those are the areas where there is most likely some form of self-sabotaging coming up. And notice what your personal correlation with self-worth is, because that is the most important thing. We can give all these words on, what you're afraid of or what self-worth should feel like, or I'll give you the dictionary definition of self-worth, but really nothing like matters except for what you feel when it comes to that like little feeling inside of you that doesn't feel quite right, that doesn't feel enough, that doesn't feel good, like feels like something is quite off. That is the thing that you need to get intimate with. That's the thing you need to understand. And whether you work with someone, you don't work with someone, you understand it, you don't understand it, that is always going to be the thing that will heal and help you through that next ceiling. Like that is in some way, shape, or form the deepest connection you need to create.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you for finishing off on that. I have nothing further to add. That was like mic drop, done, complete. I love it. So, Andie, where can the babes? Will obviously put your handle and everything in the show notes below. But for those that are tuning in and listening, where can they find you if they want to follow you? Like, where is the best place for that to happen?
Yes. Okay. You guys can follow me on Instagram at the Self-Sabotage Coach or at Andie Colleen. They're just two different handles. And those would probably be the main places. You can link to a lot of things from there. I have a podcast that you can listen to more and like all of that fun stuff that we all have. So you can like explore, but I'll keep it short and just give you the Instagrams.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll put those in the show notes as well, so you can head below. If you have had a takeaway or an aha moment from this conversation, like shoot Andie a DM or come and let me know. We love to know that these conversations are serving you. Like we can riff on different topics all day long, but ultimately we are here to serve, and we want to pour back into you so that you can continue to grow and evolve and essentially become the creatress of freedom for yourself. And if you have had any of those takeaways, we would love to hear. If you are interested in doing any personal work with myself, you'll see all of the ways that we can do that in the show notes below. So go and have a little look. My DMs are always open, so you can always shoot me a message. Andie, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation today. It was an absolute blast. And I know that we're not done, girl. I know that there is plenty of other topics that we 100% can delve into. So we're going to get you back on here and we're going to have another discussion on some other topics for sure. So thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to pour into these babes.
Thank you so much for having me. I would love to come back and I really appreciated this.
Oh, my pleasure. No worries. All right, babes, we will chat with you real soon. Bye for now.